Hello children, welcome to digital class. This is Kalyani here. You know, the most interesting thing in our life, we listen different things from people around us. See, we say that, what a story it is. Yes, you got my point children. We are going to discuss something related to story writing today. But what's the need to discuss this? Your SSC exams are approaching, and as you know well, it is a part of your discourses, I mean creative writing. Paper 1, question number 28 carries this creative writing, that is story writing or narrative. And this is a difficult task for the people who have a less creativity. So, we can make it easy by following a strategy. So, today in this class, we will see that strategy. By the end of this session, you will come to know how to write a story and what are the features of the story writing. Moreover, how to convert a script to a story. Generally, first we will prepare a story, and basing on that story, we go for a script writing. But here it is somewhat different. When we go to our textbook, Dear Departed lesson, that is humor and wit, it is one act play, and today in this class we are going to convert it into a story as it is part of your creative writing. So, at first we will see what is story writing and how to make a good story writing. I mean, what are the features that we need for story writing. So, when you go for a writing, any writing like descriptive or story writing, we must concentrate on 3 basic concepts, that is creativity, imaginative and then reality. If it is a fiction, I mean to say imaginative, people, the readers may not get a good concept of it, I mean interest on it. Better to start with the reality and then go to it. So, on whole, how to make your story writing better, we will see now. First, what is story writing? Story writing, it is a description, either it may be true or imaginary, as I said earlier, and it is connected to a series of events, maybe from your life or the things that you have observed. A tale, it is a tale, short story that is made for entertainment like Panchatantra or any Akbar Birbal stories, Arabian Nights, whatever it may be. And next, it is message oriented, it must be a message oriented. Moreover, it can be a fiction too. Now, let us see what are the features of this story writing. Elements of story writing. First one, setting. Next, character, I mean characters, style, plot and finally theme. Now, these are the 5 basic elements of story writing. We will discuss in detail about these concepts. At first, setting. What is setting in story writing? It is that which tells us where and when the story takes place, and in short we can say that time and location. Here what I mean to say is, while writing a story, we have to concentrate on the environment of the story that we are going to put on. Like if you are going to describe something like fiction, that certain environment has to be explained, certain settings has to be described, and then if you are going to include a characters or a story related to your surroundings that you have observed, it should be like a home, street or whatever, and time, particularly the story that is related to past incidents somewhere in the king's period, are like god, goddess, are something like giants, something which is related to past incidents, it has to be explained basing on that period time. So, describing time and describing location are very important to make our story writing good enough. Characters. So, characters are the people in the story. This is the most important concept while writing story. Mean what is happening to them. It means that what type of characters included in the story, what is their nature. As I said earlier, today we are going to discuss about the Dear Departed lesson. Here you can find different characters, greedy and someone like who love materialistic things than. Here we find certain people who like materialistic things than the realistic or the human relations like Emilia and Elizabeth. Moreover, Victoria, who is an innocent character, Henry and Ben, who are like henpecked husbands. So, certain characters' nature has to be explained clearly in the story writing. Okay. So, that is a very important part in story writing. Plot. This is how we are going to structure or prepare a strategy of a story writing. So, the first one is what happens in the story, what is going to happen in the story, that to be explained. And next, the order that it happens in the story. So, we will see about the order as if opening, middle and then ending. So, this plot can be explained in clear by following a story mountain that we see later. So, plot is that is a beginning, middle and ending. Somehow we can say like opening of the story and then going to a problem and then coming to a resolution and closing the story, that is giving a climax to the story. Opening, problem, solution. These three strategies has to be followed while preparing a story, right. So, this is the major feature of story writing. Somehow we find short stories which may not have any strategy, mean it is just like an entertainment, we will not find any problem in that. It is just like describing an incident. So, we can't find any problem or there is no question of finding a resolution, we just describe the nature of that situation. Style, right. This is writing techniques, what we are going to follow as. And the next one is language that feels right. Yes, it is very important. We have to use a perfect language which makes the learner to read the story. I mean to say which helps the reader or creates a curiosity in the reader to read the story. Next, speech indirect quotes. Generally, we write stories in a indirect speech, but to make your story strong and effective, to create a curiosity in the readers, we have to quote certain statements as if when you write a story of Dear Departed, Abel might have said, where are my slippers? So, there you can say Abel said, where are my slippers, instead of saying that Abel said that where were his slippers. So, it creates some curiosity in the reader to go through and read it anxiously to know the next incidents. So, and the next one in this style is use simple words and simple sentences. Yes, if it is a lengthy statement and use a difficult vocabulary, the reader may not get the concept of the story, the theme of the story, and they may leave it aside or they may lose the interest in reading the story, depending on the reader's ability, as if it is a short story, as if it is a novel. So, depending on its understand it, we have to use the vocabulary and words, sentences which may be simple for the reader to follow. The best possible words. Yes, instead of using a phrases, we can use a simple word which helps the reader to have knowledge of a vocabulary too. It should not be a difficult vocabulary or difficult words, simple words which are suitable for that concept, which fix in that concept to the level of the reader. Next one is theme. Yes, the heart of the story. So, what does this theme carry? Main and recurrent idea. That is the basic idea of that story. Theme is something that might help us in our own lives, right? We call it as moral. So, theme is somewhat like moral or message given to the readers through the story. Theme is something, it should be like, it should grow out of the story so that the readers feel they have learned it for themselves. It is nothing but moral. Okay. Theme should be related to their general life. They must reflect themselves in those characters of the story. Then it creates interest in the readers. They love to read the story and your story will be successful. This is story mountain. You just concentrate. When I was explaining you about the plot, I said opening, the initial paragraph, and then building up the story by introducing the characters and scenes to create a problem in the story. So, once when the problem is created, you have to build up the story to find a resolution, and when you find a resolution, you have to conclude the story with a message to the reader reflecting their routine life in the characters. This makes your story good enough and an effective story writing. Up to now, you have come to know what is an effective story writing. What are the features of effective story writing? Now, let us see. Above all this, the most important thing is language. So, the language that you use while writing the story is very important. So, what type of words or which type of vocabulary we have to use and what type of sentences have to be used in this story writing, let us see now. In case of language, that is while writing a story, we have to use action words. Action words like the words that provide interest in writing. Here if you see an example, instead of saying she laughed, simply we can say she cackled, isn't it? She cackled. Cackle is a word, typical word, but it is easy to follow. And then you have to use first person like I, we when you are narrating the story. And generally we have a narrator for every story. So, who is the narrator to be concentrated. If there is no narrator, if we are not giving that identity of a narrator of the story, better let us go for a third person and we have to use he, she, and this is about a past thing. The story usually will be in a past tense. And next, connectivities, linking words to be used with the time, that is as if you are using past, as long ago. Once upon a time there was an old man, there was an old man, long ago there was an old man, or Abel Mary was 50 years old. So, the time and linkers have to used according to that period. Specific nouns. So, strong nouns have more specific meaning. Example, oak as opposed to tree. It should be tree. Instead of saying tree, we can say oak. Next, active nouns. Make nouns actually do something. So, it was raining. It was raining generally we say. Instead of that we can say rain splashed down. Raining is an action, but here we took it as a noun, rain splashed down. So, it creates an interest and reader learn new vocabulary, new usage. Next, use of adjectives and adverbs. Adjectives and adverbs qualify the action and provides description and information for the reader. This is very important. See, information has to be passed to the reader in a right path. So, describing the situations, describing the actions in a proper manner helps the reader to get the real theme or moral of the story, and the reader can reach the writer's concept. Use of the senses. Where appropriate, the senses can be used to describe and develop the experience, setting and character. Senses has to be used in a proper manner. Like, what does it smell like? What can be heard? What can be seen? In detail we have to explain. What does it taste like? What does it feel like? It indicates there may be a character or a scene or a situation of the story that you are going to present. So, the senses must be clearly expressed to the reader. Apart of this, we have certain features of writing like simile. Jhansi fought like a lion in the war field. Metaphor, where we take the role. Jhansi was a lion in the war field. Next, personification, that is the flowers were dancing. So, we have to use these features, and next rhetorical questions also have to be used. Rhetorical questions is like asking questions, why were you in the same colored dress till now, Victoria, better you go and change. So, here we have to use certain words, questions to make our story good enough. Now, we are coming to our concept of writing the dear departed in the form of a story. It's really strange, children. In our question paper, it is asked that a script has been given and you are about to prepare a story. But generally we prepare a story and then we go for a script writing. Here it is to test your ability of writing a story. So, here the script is in front of you and you have to pick out all the features what we have discussed earlier now. First we have to put it on a paper in a mountain form and then go for writing a story. So, it is a 10-mark question and you have to follow all these features to score better. First, we will see the characters. Here the characters are Mrs. Amelia Slater, Mrs. Elizabeth Jordan, they are sisters, and Henry Slater, husband of Amelia, Ben Jordan, husband of Elizabeth. Victoria Slater, a girl of 10, that is Amelia's daughter. Abel Merriweather, father of Amelia and Elizabeth. Are they the only characters that we find in this story? Still we have two more characters, as you know, that is Jimmy, son of Elizabeth and Ben, and then Mrs. John Shorrock, whom Abel marries at the end. And somehow Victoria describes about Abel's friend even. So, these are hidden characters in the story who were not given much importance in story writing. So, we have to concentrate on certain characters which are required in the story writing, but they are not focused. The main characters are focused well here. The next one is theme. As you know well, it is humor and wit. This story describes the humor and the witty attitude of both the daughters towards father. Not only daughters, even the son-in-laws. And moreover, it explains the busy or selfish, greedy society. Next, setting. Here we find only one setting, that is daughter's house. It is Amelia's house, that too dining hall. And the third one is time. So, as you know, when the story goes on, we find it in the morning, that is during tea time. It is very clear they have a tea when they come. So, it is during tea time. Okay? And next, let us see the story mountain of this story. Here if you see, our story starts with Abel's death, that is Mrs. Slater trying to pinch the things of Abel, and Mr. and Mrs. Jordan joins them. Then Abel's daughters quarrel for his property, and it has been developed as Abel's decision of changing his will. Daughters got surprised. This is resolution. And finally, his announcement of a wedding. So, the climax goes as daughters taught a good lesson. So, now we got the outline of the story, and let us see the theme, how it has been done. The dear departed. The writer is Stanley Hognett, and this is a social play, moreover a one act play. And here it reveals the pathetic conditions of the elderly people. Elderly people are neglected, ill-treated and deserted by their own children. Satire criticizes the degradation of moral values in the modern world. Shows the negligence of two daughters towards the father. Breaking of human relations in the modern world. This is the theme of the story. Bearing these things in our, concentrating on these things, we have to start our story writing. And do not forget to title the story. You may take this same title as Dear Departed. Now, let us see how to make the story. The Dear Departed. Here you have a model story and try to do on your own as an assignment of this session. Abel Merriweather was an old man of 60 years. He had two daughters, Amelia and Elizabeth are his daughters. Abel lived with his younger daughter Elizabeth for a period of 5 years after his wife's death. So, here his wife's death, the past incident has been explained clearly. Later, connector has been used here. He shifted to his elder daughter Amelia's house, mean the next time as described here. She was greedy. Amelia's nature has been described. She had an eye on the father's articles like the bureau and wall clock. She wanted to pinch those things after his death. Here the statement describes that lady's inner thoughts. Even Elizabeth have no less ambition, mean she is of same attitude. One day Amelia saw her father lying in bed in deep sleep. She thought he was dead. She wore a black badge and insisted her daughter Victoria to do the same as a symbol of mourning. So, here her affection towards the father, how connective she is towards. So, here it shows the daughter's affection or negligence, what we call as, towards her father. Henry sent a message to Mr. and Mrs. Jordan. Henry, being a gentleman, he has to take his own decision with all conscience, but what he did, he just ignored the things and he followed his wife's words. So, that shows his attitude. A character description has been done well. Now, let me continue. Before they arrived, Amelia shifted the bureau and wall clock of their father down. Mr. and Mrs. Jordan arrived. They were in black. Amelia sent Victoria upstairs to get the bunch of keys of the bureau. She saw her grandfather moving. She was much afraid, ran downstairs and told the members about it. So, this shows that little girl's innocent attitude. Everyone was surprised to see Abel coming downstairs. Abel observed them and saw them in black. He asked the reason for mourning. They managed to tell him that Mr. Jordan's brother was dead. He thought of dividing his property between the two daughters in proportion to his stay with them, but he felt that his daughters were trying to grab his property. He thought that it was unsafe to stay with them. Surprisingly, he announced that he was going to marry Miss John Shorrocks, who keeps the Ringo bells at St. Philip's Church. He invited all of them to his wedding. Finally, Abel Merriweather says thanks to Mrs. Slaughter for shifting the bureau down, because that will be easy for him to carry Ringo bells, and the deer departed from them. So, here it was concluded, and then the moral is money is the dear to both his sisters, but the truth revealed in front of Abel, the money only departed from them. Now, you have seen how the story has been concluded. Money does not matter, relation matters. So, if we give value to money and we lose the relations, this is how to make your story effective. I hope you got the way how to make an effective story. Now, taking as an assignment, you present this same story in a different manner, in an effective way, taking this as an example. As you all know, our parents are the path for us to come onto this earth. So, let us respect them instead of respecting the money which does not be with us for a long time. Hope you understand, and thank you. Bye bye for this session.